I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Darren Berry, and I am delighted to be here tonight as the Master of Ceremonies on such a prestigious occasion for the Tyabb Cricket Club. And if I could please ask for your attention when we do have speakers on the stage, there will be plenty of time for catching up, and then afterwards back at the Cricket Club for those that want to kick on. So it is my delight to be here tonight. We've got plenty to get through. Before I run through the format of the night, I would like to make some special welcomes, some official guests with us tonight. Mr. Neil Burgess, a local Member of Parliament, please make Neil felt welcome. Fantastic to have the Chief Executive Officer of Cricket Victoria, a wonderful cricketer himself, now doing a great job as the CEO, Mr. Tony Dodemaide. Please welcome Dotty. Also, the list isn't that long, from Cricket Victoria, General Manager of Game and Market Development, Rowan O'Neill. Thank you, Rowan. Now, the next list of names are very, very important people. Could I ask you hold your applause until the end of the entire list, which gives you a hint that I'm now going to welcome the life members of the Tyabb Cricket Club that are with us tonight. Starting, I haven't seen him as yet, so I hope he's here. The President of the MPCA, is he here? About 10 minutes, brother. He's always running late, let's be honest, but we'll welcome him anyway, and when he comes in, we'll give him a bit of a cheer. But the President and a life member, Stephen Morone, hold the applause till the end. Life members, and I'm told the lifeblood of this cricket club, Mr. Jeff Stockton, Edgar Slocum with us tonight, Richard Francis, Lee Murray, Chris Horton, Greg Hodgins, Ron Gleeson, Doug Dyall, Ian Birch, Mrs. Mary Gleeson, Andrew Prout, Rob Flood, Dean Meyer, Ben Webster and Ron Dyall. A collective welcome to all of the life members of the club. Before I call upon Tony Dodemaide to come up and say a few words on behalf of Cricket Victoria, just a couple of little yarns, I suppose. I am living locally now. For those that don't know, I was lucky enough to play cricket for Victoria for 15 years and very proud of that fact, given that I grew up not too far away from here. I'm now living with my wife and 3 children in Mount Eliza, but I grew up in a classy southeastern suburb of Melbourne, and there might be a few of you here with us tonight. And not many people know this, but the first 10 years of my life were spent in Dandenong. Anyone from Dandenong here tonight? Hands up. 1. Well, I actually grew up in the sort of the posh end of Dandenong, the toffee part of Dandenong. I'm proud to say it too, that the first 10 years of my life was spent in Dufton. So don't laugh, what are you laughing at? My father retired from, Dad was a builder in Dandenong, and 10 years of age, and I had probably 2 dreams in my life. One was to play league football, or to one day be good enough to play cricket for my state and hopefully for my country. At 10 years of age, Dad retired from the building game, and we really moved up in the world. We went in search of a quiet country venue, and we settled just down the South Gippsland Highway in a place called Wonthaggi. Now, is there anyone from Wonthaggi with us this evening? There is one lady from Wonthaggi. We didn't go to school together, did we? No. You're a lot younger than I am, so I shouldn't have even suggested that. Wonthaggi, as all of you would know, a lot of our country Victorian towns, and I'm not sure whether Tyabb is one of them, being almost a city now, but growing up in Wonthaggi, a country area. Wonthaggi is named after our Aboriginal ancestors. Would anyone in the room like to have a guess at what Wonthaggi stands for? In honour of our, don't you spoil the fun, the Dandenong fella at the back. You're already getting rowdy from Dandenong, aren't you? Wonthaggi, I didn't know this at the time, but when my mother and father decided their last son, we would move to Wonthaggi, and that's where I would do high school and grow up. I realised, and I was told on several occasions, that Wonthaggi actually stood for shit off Mr. Phillip Island turn-off. There's no other reason you'd go to Wonthaggi, it's a shithole. No, it's not, it's fantastic. And I'll tell you what it was great for sport. And very much like the whole of the Mornington Peninsula, and I'm delighted to be living down here now and have 3 young children myself. Just like the Tyabb Cricket Club, and we're going to hear from many legends of the club throughout the evening, the lifeblood of Wonthaggi was the sporting teams. and I was very privileged growing up to have some great role models to teach me about sport. And my two chosen sports, as I said, were probably football and cricket. A little bit slow for football, so cricket, little fat wicket keeper, became my career. But tonight is not about me, it is about the 125 years of this very proud club. And to think in 1892, the inception of the club, and I've had a brief read on the history of the club, but I'm not going to do it justice. I'm going to leave that for some more important dignitaries of the club to go through that. What we are going to do tonight is we're going to name the team of the last 25 years. And I'm sure there'll be some surprises amongst them. Some, most of you will guess, and we'll have all those people up on stage, and that's going to be the culmination of the evening. Prior to that, as I said, a few of the club legends will come forward, and we'll speak about 25 years at a time. Doug's got about 13,000 pages of notes to talk about 1892. So I've said to Doug, you're going to have to keep that to 5 minutes. So we'll keep a timer on Doug when he gets up. But we will reflect on the history of this club. And to the younger players that are new to the club or coming up and maybe dad or granddad played at the club, I certainly hope you appreciate tonight and what the history of this club is all about. It's a grassroots club, it's had a lot of success. You look around the room and in the last 25 years, there's flags up there. I think there's 7 of them that have been premierships in the last 25 years of this club. And I'm reliably informed, and this is an interesting little side addition, that in each of those flags, I believe the name Slocum appeared in every one of them. So I think that might do with a round of applause. Now, any MC always has to go through the formalities and say it's a non-smoking venue. If anyone wants to cut a couple of years off their life, please do so at the front of the hall. Toilets, I don't even know where they are. Prayers, where are they? Just to my left, thank you. And now that he's made a late entry with a pink shirt on, please welcome the President of the MPCA, life member, Steve Morone. That's what happens, Steve, when you turn up late. Sorry, buddy. Great to have Steve with us tonight. One little story before I call Tony Dottermaid to the podium. And one of my great friends in cricket is here, and I say this reluctantly because I was a bit concerned. I phoned him during the week. He's a country boy now, but he did spend a couple of years at the Tyabb Cricket Club. He grew up in Pearcedale. I've got to be very careful what I say with this, but what I do know is many of the local groundsmen and curators are very nervous at Stephen Cottrell's presence here tonight. For those that know that, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But one of my great friends in cricket, we played together at Fitzroy Doncaster in district cricket, and then Cotters obviously came back down and played locally at this club for a couple of years. Story's got nothing to do with him, but I think his brother may have played in this game. At 15 years of age in Wonthaggi, I was selected, and I think it was called the Harvester Cup. For any of the players in the room might remember those days when the country zones used to play cricket against each other. And I was selected out of Wonthaggi in the South Gippsland team. And we were to come to Graydon's Road to play the MPCA. Now, I'm not sure if there's anyone in this room, I'm 48 years of age, that may have played in this match. But at 15 years of age, my parents were a little bit nervous about me going away with the under-21 South Gippsland team. The captain of the team, who will remain nameless, promised my parents he would look after me. We arrived into the Mornington Peninsula, and where would we be staying? I drove past it tonight and I thought I've got to share this with you. We of course stayed 33 years ago at the Tyabb Fly-In Motor Inn. And I remember the room. I was at the back of the establishment, and I was rooming with the captain because I was 15 years of age. And of course Mum and Dad would ring to make sure everything was okay. We're playing at Graydon's Road, but of course the night before the game we had to venture out to see what was on offer in the local towns, and back then there was only one place to go. And the President, Sam, told me exactly before. He said, I know where you went, I know exactly what would have been happening. We went to the Western Port Hotel in Hastings 33 years ago. I still can feel my feet sticking to that carpet. For those of you that may have been there on the night, I can't remember what band was playing, but it'd be fair to say at 15 I was underage, so the boys had to sneak me in, and of course at 15 Mum and Dad gave me strict instructions: no alcohol. But when you go on tour with the boys and you're with 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds, it'd be fair to say they fed a couple of cold Carlton drafts into me, and it would also be fair to say when I got back to the Tyabb Fly-In Motor Inn, I flew in at about 1:10 in the morning. A fair bit flew out of me off that balcony too. So as I drove past, I thought, gee, I hope they've cleaned that spew up out the back of the Tyabb fly-in. But it's great to be now living back in the local area, and if you ever met my wife, don't share that story with her. Rooming at the, going to the Western Port Hotel and staying at the Tyabb fly-in motoring. We have plenty to get through tonight, so again, enough from me. I'd like to welcome to the podium the Chief Executive Officer of Cricket Victoria to have a few words, I'm sure, about grassroots cricket and perhaps what's going on in Cricket Victoria. Please welcome Mr. Tony Dodemaide.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Chuck said, this isn't a night for long speeches from people outside the club. This is very much a club night, but I very much appreciate the opportunity just to come be invited. First of all, thank you very much, Sam, again for your invitation. And I know Rowan feels the same as I do. To represent Cricket Victoria here and represent these sort of events is just one of the best parts of this job. Cricket in Victoria is immense. We have about 1,100 clubs, Rowan. Rowan can rattle off the stats better than I, but 1,100 clubs, about 74 or 75 associations, right through from grassroots cricket clubs, from new into cricket, underage cricket, T20 Blast, that sort of thing, coming right through community clubs, up to, of course, our Bush Rangers, Vic Spirit, Stars and Renegades. So it's a massive game that we've got, and the reason that the game is enormously healthy at the moment, it's in great shape. And the reason it's in great shape is for people like you sitting in this room. This time of year is always very busy when we've got test matches, the Boxing Day Test, Ashes series, of course. We've got an international, one day international, in fact, tomorrow at the MCG. We've had Big Bash games and WBBL games, 44,000 last night at Etihad Stadium to watch the Stars and Renegades, which is fantastic. But I must say, no beer. I must say that the best occasions that you do go to during the course of the years are these type of occasions here, where clubs like your good selves celebrate a fantastic history. To have started in 1892, just consider that just for a moment, and what the club, the ups and downs that any community club goes through, with of course the senior players, juniors coming through, finding volunteers left, right and centre. And we also know too that clubs are tested over the journey as well through various things, and this club has certainly been tested more than most. But I think that to look around the room and to feel the spirit in the room, to look at the people here coming and celebrating an enormous achievement by the club is absolutely fantastic. So look, you're part of a wonderful game that we've got here in Victoria. It's a very healthy game at the moment. There's never been a better time to play cricket, particularly in Victoria. The opportunities now for young boys and girls are absolutely immense, and it's enormous, and it's great, and it'll be growing even more so. We know that it's tough to run clubs at community level, and we're doing as much as we can. And again, anyone want to chat to Rowan about this, but we're looking to increase the services and the support that we do give grassroots clubs and their volunteers. But look, enough from me. I just wanted to acknowledge all of your efforts, certainly Sam as President. What's left of him anyway, the last he's looks like he hasn't eaten for about 18 months. But Sam and Donna that I've got to know over the journey, particularly in the last 18 months or a couple of years or so, and I've just got an enormous amount of admiration for them. I've got enormous amount of admiration for the rest of the committee here at Tyabb, and what you've done, what you continue to be able to do. And I just want to finish off, there's a very, very small token of appreciation from Cricket Victoria by way of a small plaque that we'd love to present to you, Sam, as President, to perhaps might find a place in the club rooms just to acknowledge and really, I suppose, a gesture of respect that we've got at Cricket Victoria for the Tyabb Cricket Club. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Tony Dodemaide from Cricket Victoria. Just briefly, format for this evening so everyone is clear. Well, obviously on your bread and butter plate you found a memorabilia pin and wear that with pride. And I'm told that we do have to vacate these premises by 11 p.m. However, for those that do want to reminisce and kick on a little later on, the club rooms will be open until midnight. Before then, there'll be an unofficial lock-in, and as many local clubs do, there's no members of the constabulary here with us tonight, but we'll see how we go. We will break, ladies and gentlemen, for entree, and then we'll be back to speak about the first 50 years of the club. Let's have a wonderful evening, enjoy each other's company, and I'll be back in about 15 minutes. Started in 1892, and we're going to speak about the first 25 years. Obviously the teams have already been read out, and the second 25 years. So if we could give Doug your attention for about 6 or 7 minutes, and we'll then have another break in proceedings when main course will be served. Come back and we'll move on with the next part of the evening. So without any further ado, please give Doug a warm welcome.
Everyone hear that? Hear it now? Yeah. Not working. Thanks everyone, it's great to be here and see so many old faces and Tyabb from my last 40 years that I can recall, so it's fantastic to be able to celebrate 125. My job tonight will be doing a little bit of a rundown of each 25 years, so bear with me, some of it's probably a little bit historical and not so much funny. Tyabb, as when Darren was talking before about Montague, the Aboriginal word for Tyabb means water hole, or that's where the Aborigines used to walk across from Toowoomba over to Dramana and down to Taranto, and they used to stop here to get water at the Tyabb water holes. So that's how Tyabb became known. Now, the Tyabb Cricket Club is not only one of the oldest cricket clubs on the peninsula, it's also very unique. And it's the only club from those very early years that has an uninterrupted life. In other words, we've been part of an association here every year apart from the war years, which no other club, including Mornington, Frankston, none of them did that. They've all gone out of existence, so that's something for us to be very proud of. It was the advent of the railway line in 1888 that really put Tyabb on the map. And it may never have happened because when the Victorian government, or who was ever running the state then, I'm not sure whether Neil was still running it, the rail line was originally going to go from Frankston down to the south, to Crib Point, or Stony Point, or what it was known, and it was going to go to Sunwell on the Frankston Road, or Hastings Road as it was known. Now there, they were going to run it down Jones Road to Bowes Road and into Hastings. So miss this whole area. So this land that we're now standing on today may never even be part of what we are. It's going to be up there on the corner where the little school was. That's where the original railway line was going to go. But someone in the government changed direction. A bit unusual, isn't it? Thanks, Neil. And they decided then to come down through what was known as Stewart's Flat. Stewart's Road is named after that. So that was a good decision for us because it meant Tyabb was going to grow and change, and it did. As soon as the railway went through, it opened up this district. This land here was part of the O'Neill property, which Bungayan was part of the original Martha King property of the peninsula. So we are very ancient, even if not as ancient as the Indigenous people here, but certainly as white settlement. Missed a bit, I got off the track there. So cricket in that time was very much in its infancy on the peninsula. Clubs were formed, but they just ran socially. They would just put ads in the paper and say we're willing to play on the 12th of December, and some other club would ring them up or write them a letter, and that's how games were organised. It wasn't until around when the railway line came through that it became more real. Clubs became having games against their neighbours every week. Now that was 1892 for Tyabb, when a few like-minded people in the area, and I'll just read their names out because they're important to our history. John H. Thornell, Alex McCurdy, Jack O'Neill, or John O'Neill, who was the original owner of the land, William Baker, S. Hollick, and the local member of the area, which was Henry Peddle. They attended at the newly built station house and decided to form a cricket club. Mr Thornell was elected as its first president, Mr Hollyoake as secretary and Mr McCurdy as treasurer, and Mr Bill Baker was elected captain, and it was his job then to try and arrange a team. And that happened, and they met Sunwell for the first time down at the old ground at Lower Sunwell Road, which many people probably wouldn't know existed. There was that before Sunwell Rail, and then those two eventually merged. And even though we lost that game, the seeds were sown and Tyabb was really born. Originally we played on the old Coles property, which is just where the shops are on that side. That's where the original ground was in his, we call it Coles Paddock. And the colours of the club were red, white and blue. Gear was purchased, new wickets, 2 bats, a ball, keeping gloves and 2 pairs of pads. I don't know what happened when the other bloke had to come in and out. Another great tradition happened that year that lasted for nearly 40 years. And that was a social match played with Tyabb versus Rill. And if you know, Rill is on Phillip Island. So each year the clubs would take it in turns of playing each other, coming across on a ferry or one of the local fishermen's boats. And that went right up to nearly the Second World War. So that it would have been a fantastic social occasion of the time where cricket or any sport played was the hub of any community. In 1893, Mr G.G. Cole, who's a famous name in Tyabb, started an association with the local cricket club that lasted until his death in 1948. He spent his whole cricket, or his whole life from that time in 1893, on the Tyabb committee. So 28 years as president, and all the rest as the committee man, which is just a remarkable effort when you think about over 55 years on the committee. The club took part in the first association in 1896, which lasted until 1903. Before, for whatever reason, the gentleman who ran the club at the association fell into disrepair. He got himself in a bit of trouble, and the association folded and went back to running basically social matches again. During this time, the Tyabb Central Oval was opened in 1905. Even though the cricketers had been playing there a couple of years before that, a small pavilion was constructed and it now become the hub of the community. With this place here, the hall was also built around the same time. Special part of the club was also the women of the day. And they were an integral part providing supper after all home games, because teams then didn't have afternoon tea like we have it today. They'd come over because they worked in the morning and they would come to a town and play their cricket and then stay and have supper in the hall. So you can imagine what that would have been like for visiting teams with their drays and their horses and whatever. The Peninsula Cricket Association formed in 1907, and Tyabb was a key member in running of that association, providing the first president. In 10-11, Tyabb played in the first ever grand final. So before that, the team finishing on top or played the most wins, they were given the premiership. But this year they decided to have a premiership grand final. And Tyabb played Frankston on the Frankston ground. Again, Tyabb lost and Frankston got the premiership, but the match was described as the greatest spectacle ever played on the peninsula. So both, it was a great reading the report of that match. It went down to the wire. It was only a last wicket stand by Frankston that got him over the line. The next season, 10-11, we took out our first premiership, and we had the most wins. That's how it was done by then. They dropped off the grand final idea and went back to having just most wins, which seems strange, but they did that for a long time. Tyabb had their first B-grade team in 1907. That's been running as seconds, when yet we only had 300 people living in the town, which is just, when you think of it, it's great. How a small town like this did that. Everything went on hold when the World War started. Tyabb was really doing well in the A and B grade. We had some great players in that first period, William and Jack Baker, Alf Denham, Fred Mills, Herb Noble, George Slocum, Alf Young, just to name a few. And administrators like George Cole, H.B. Woodhouse, Fred Mills, Bert Hollier, Herb Noble, Jack Baker, Jack Grant, Alf Denham and Alf Lester. During the First World War, we had several players who went on overseas to Europe and 2 of them never came back, George Longmuir and H. Mills. The club remained operational through the First World War and played games holding functions to raise funds and for the comforts parcels to be sent back to the troops. During the war, the local press selected a team of the champions of the peninsula from 1880 to 1918. Tyabb had 3 members in that team, Herb Noble, Jack and William Baker, and Frankston had 4 players, so Tyabb were right up there as a team to be reckoned with. So I'll move straight into the part 2, which is after the war coming from 1917 to 1942. Tyabb were first again right on the ball to arrange a match. We decided that cricket needed to get going straight after the war ended, and we went to French Island and played in the first match in 1918, so that was just after the war was finished. The season started with other clubs in 1920, and cricket really took its first real boom on the peninsula. New clubs were formed in Langwarrin, Pearsdale, Bitton, Crib Point and Seaford. And Tyabb was already by 1921 fielding 2 teams. This was also a big time for the 2 associations. Northern Peninsula Cricket Association started down here and Southern Peninsula in the south. These 2 were great rivals for 40 years before merging in the early 60s. Tyabb took out their second premiership in 25-26, defeating Navy, in which was an epic battle that went well into the 3rd day, which was very unusual. But some magnificent play from Fred Floyd and a young boy by the name of Rob Story turned the match, bowling Navy up in the second innings, and we won by 18 runs. Several players were lured away just after this lot, and we lost probably the ageing first lot, now the first 20-year players had started to retire, and Tyabb fell into a little bit of a lull, losing the seconds, and several senior players were called back to play in the first, because the seconds were struggling they were dropped out. This was until 1930, and then the seconds were back. The legendary Jack Baker retired at the end of 30-31, and the club gave a dinner for his service to the whole Tyabb community. Now, Jack Baker, just briefly, is an amazing story in himself. He was 33 before he came to play at Tyabb, and took 900 wickets from that time on. Retired when he was nearly into his 60s. He could be, yeah. Harry Denham, anyone know Denham's Road down there? He took over as captain and had a couple of real fast bowlers in Rob and Roy Story, and many teams were really put up. They were both quick and liked to bounce them out. Even though Tyabb didn't win premierships, they were in finals for nearly every year in the 30s. There's one game that I just want to share with you quickly in 33-34 against Baxter. It's finished in controversy. That saw bad blood between these 2 clubs, which lasted for many years. Some will still remember some of them. Tyabb batted first and made 146. Baxter was then bowled out for 122 early on the second day. Tyabb then batted recklessly and made just 84. This left Baxter 109 to winning outright in just under an hour. Baxter took up the challenge, and at 5:59, the score was 4 for 105 with 1 over to be bowled. Things happened. Tyabb refused to bowl the over due to one umpire saying it's 6 o'clock. Discussions continued, and the Baxter team were furious as some of the Tyabb players left the ground due to one umpire saying it's 6 o'clock. Tyabb came back on the ground after discussion, and all seemed well, but no ball could be found. Apparently a Tyabb player had taken it off the ground and refused to return it. You can imagine the mayhem. Games at that time always finished right on 6 p.m. Each side had to provide an umpire so you can see what the problem probably was. Baxter appealed this decision to the NPCA, who had never had such an issue referred to them. so they referred it on to the Victorian Cricket Association. The ruling finally made by the VCA, and it was actually the whole issue ended up in the Melbourne Press, so it was a big thing. The ruling finally made by the VCA was that the game would result in a first innings win to Tyabb, as there was some discrepancy in regard to evidence supplied regarding the actual time the umpires were unable to disagree. Baxter were furious, and years later it was still a sore point. The way it was written up at the time, I think Arnold Noble might have been that player responsible for holding the ball. The way he wrote the article in the press. So in 33-34 we went on to play finals and we lost to the dominant Bitten side led by the Allens. But Rob Story took 12 wickets in the match in an outstanding effort. That year was also the final year for our first captain, William Baker, who was captain in 1892. This was now 1934. He played his last game with the club after 41 years. He was in his 63rd year, but he continued on playing 3 more years at Pearstown. In 38-39 saw Tyabb bring in many young players under the leadership of Harry Denham. They lost their first 5 games, but rallied well to make the finals. Defeating Mornington in the semi, Tyabb again came up against Bitten, who were clear favourites. But this new team with plenty of spirit gave the Big Knights one spot for and took out the 3rd premiership. It was a great mixture of old and new that always does the trick. Again, war intervened and the cricket went into recession. During the 25-year period between 1917 and 1942, Tyabb only had 2 presidents, George Cole and Herb Noble. They were just obviously great leaders of the community. Tyabb had great administration alongside those in Harry Denham, Arnold Noble, Jack Grant, Rob Story, Jack Baker, Bert Noble, Ted Sarah and George Slocum. The first concrete wicket in Tyabb went in 1928 over there, and they used a matting over the top. And I do remember George Slocum telling me a story about putting rocks underneath the matting when they were playing against teams they didn't like. One record that I'm sure is, I can't see this record ever be beaten, is Tyabb went 23 games in a row without a loss between 25-26 until end of 26-27. In 38-39 premiership team was a young man was Charles Floyd, and he went on to join the AIF when the war started, and unfortunately he was killed in a training mishap in Queensland. He was only 21 years of age and would have had a bright future, I'm sure. Country Week was also started up during this era, and Tyabb were right into the mix of that, with Harry Denham, Rob Story, Brett Gregory, David Reed, Bob Story, Arnie Noble, Roy Story, Ted Barclay, Ray Denham and George Slocum Jr. all playing country work. Herb Noble took many country week sides away as manager, and he was probably 15 years he did that job. The war also interrupted and ended a career at Tyabb of Ray Denham. Again, at just 22 years old, he was regarded as the premier batsman on the peninsula, a left-hander who made 8 centuries with Tyabb before he was 22. Because of the war, he then, after we came back and played at Frankston in sub-district before moving to Baxter. And he went on to score over 50 centuries. So Tyabb did miss out on a definitely future champion. So that's all from me, but thanks very much for the first 50. And I'll hand over back to Karen.
Stolen all the notes, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, so I'll, there we go, I think you're right. Thanks very much to Doug. For those of you that do know Doug, he used to work for Encyclopedia Britannica, and he used to knock on the doors of Tyabb and ask anyone if they'd like to buy them. If not, he'd read it to them. So very good salesman he was in the time back then for Encyclopedia Britannica. Doug, in all seriousness, that was fantastic, and I've certainly learned two things about Tyabb Cricket Club. How appropriate that when the Aboriginal ancestors used to walk from Caricature down to the peninsula, they'd stop at Tyabb and it would be the watering hole. Not much has changed in many years, I wouldn't have thought. The Tyabb Cricket Club continues to be a famous watering hole. And what I also learned, Doug, is I'm amongst a pack of cheating bastards, which is great. And with that, I expect Stephen Cottrell to be made a life member tonight. Fantastic stories, and what we might do now is take a break for dinner, catch up with one another, but please, in about 15 or 20 minutes time, we'll be back with the next part of proceedings. Don't worry, Goughy, I've got you in my sights as well. I caught up with a friend of yours yesterday, Goughy, a blonde leg spinner. You got a bit more hair than you, and I'll come back to you later. Let's break for dinner and we'll be back shortly. So we're going to move forward now to the third quarter of the century, 1942 to 1967. And I'd like to welcome to the stage to speak about that era and read out the team of that 25 years. Club Secretary, please welcome Brad Hodgins.
Good evening, everyone. I've been given the honour of speaking about the 1942 to 1967-68 period. The war was over and cricket again began in Tyabb, and we were one of the very first clubs to show an interest in arranging the reformation of the MPCA back in October of 1945. In only one season, we already had a second 11 formed, and Tyabb were again looking like a strong combination. After reaching the finals almost every year until 1951, the seconds were dropped and many of the pre-war veterans retired. We made the grand final in 1951-52, but we found the unbeaten Mornington side far too strong as we had to try and chase down 328. Unfortunately, we weren't quite able to get there, but never mind. The Noble brothers, Bert and Arnold, both passed away shortly after retiring, and the pair had made a great contribution to the club. On and off the field, the two of them had put in for a combined total of over 40 years each. Much of the knowledge today about our club comes from the articles written almost weekly by Arnold Noble to the local press about the Tyabb district, and we're very privileged to have such detailed records. In the early 1950s, Tyabb had some prominent players in Frankie Signieri, Laurie Denham, Modge Clark, Kevin Hodgins and Ron Grant, just to name a few. There's a particular game that I want to talk about briefly when we were playing Balnarring back in 1951-52. And it was a significant game because it showed the raw ability of Frankie Signieri as he almost single-handedly turned the match and took victory from the jaws of defeat. Balnarring batted first and made 173, with Laurie Denham taking 6 for 69. Frankie Signieri took 3 for 40, and we kept the total to a reasonable amount. But, as has been known to happen occasionally, Tyabb faltered it when chasing with the bat, and we could only manage 119. Of that, Laurie Denham was again the best with 33. The game was basically over. We were gone. Well into the second day, Balnarring were none for 46 and cruising to an easy victory, when, unbelievably in a 4-over spell, Frankie Signieri took an amazing 8 wickets, which included a hat-trick to inspire his side to open the game. We needed 138 to win in just over an hour, which back in those days was almost an impossible task. Some chance was given though, after Laurie Denham hit a quick-fire 34 and Ron Grant 21. But wickets fell as Balnarring gained the upper hand and Tyabb fell to be 5 for 75, still needing a bit. But the man of the match, the man of the moment, Frankie Signieri again came to the rescue. Frank came in and he hit 38 off 2 overs. And before before he was out. With Maurice Hodgins playing the anchor role, Ray Judd hit the last 2 balls of the last over for boundaries, and Tyabb had won outright in a most remarkable match. Yes! One of the Balnarring players was heard later on to say that he swore one of the balls that Frankie Signeri delivered actually swung both ways on its way down the pitch. By the late 50s, the club had slipped with the loss of several veteran players, and we had got demoted to B grade. Don Clark was one of our best youngsters, but decided to try his hand at Hastings, while long-time president Harry Denham retired from the role, having finished a career with Tyabb that spanned from 1899 to 1957. That's 58 years. Rather amazing. A most worthy life member. Unfortunately, the club fell away a bit and struggled each week to fill a team, but through dark clouds there's always a silver lining, and it came with the arrival of new members of a new member to the club in Ken Davidson. Ken not only filled the quota for 11 each week, but it was the right time for Tyabb to have a change of direction. A new breed of locals took over running the club, such as Jeff Stockton, Richard Francis, Ron Grant, Don Prout and Edgar Slocum. They, along with Ken, helped get the club back on its feet. We had immediate success with the seniors making the grand final in 59-60, and although on the day not quite good enough to defeat a strong French Island side, the club knew it was on the right path. By 1961-62, Tyabb were back to 2 teams each week, with both sides making the grand final that season. Unfortunately, both of them lost to Heatherhill. But with a young bloke named Don Clark, the future was starting to look bright. In 1962-63, one of the biggest decisions the club have made to date was taken with the decision to join the newly formed Colts competition. This changed the whole focus of the clubs and names that came and secured its future. From that decision, the Tyabb Cricket Club became one of the most highly regarded and highly rated clubs on the peninsula for decades. Out of that Colts competition were some family names that are still involved in the Tyabb Cricket Club to these days. Families like the Floods, the Gleesons, the Morones, the Summers, the Dyalls, the Stocktons and the Smedleys. Those were some of the key families that came through and helped us build a few decades of success. By the close of the 67-68 season, we'd taken out a premiership in the under-14s, breaking a drought of 29 years. By then, we also had a 3rd senior team, which gave us 5 sides in total, and the building blocks were really in place for us to start going places. Tyabb was run during this time by some great Tyabb names in Harry Denham, Jack Shaw, Modge Clark, Laurie Denham, Ron Grant, Ray Judd, Don Prout, Don Clark, Kevin Hodgins, Ken Davidson, Fred Gregory, Les Thornell, and of course, Jeff Stockton. Again, the club couldn't function without support of the ladies who supported everyone at the club at that time. Some of the key ladies, although there were many more, were Mrs. Denham, Dot Davidson, Gwen Hodgins, Beryl Stockton, Shirley Prout, and Jean Slocum, along with some other support from their key friends. Just to finish on, I've got a couple of little points of interest here. Power was installed at the Ground and Pavilion by Don Prout in 1951 over at Tyabb Central there. Frank Insigneri was the instigator in installing practice nets along the pine trees that line the railway south of the pavilion in 1963. So where the pavilion is now, if you're standing in front of it to the left, there's a little hut that I think the baseball people put there. I can still remember when I was a junior, you could just see the 2 strips of concrete there with there's no malthoid, no nothing on it in those days, but those trading nets obviously served us well and served us for a long time. Malthoid was laid on the wicket at Tyabb Central in the 1940s, right at the end of the 1940s, and the matting was discarded. We also had some Country Week performers that stood out in that time, with Laurie Denham making the Country Week side 5 times, Don Clark 4 times, and Frank Insigneri 3 times. So It was a great period for Tyabb, coming out of the dark stages in the early 50s to build up towards being a power once again, where we belong. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Brad. Continue moving through the quarter of centuries, and some wonderful memories there coming out from Brad, and some wonderful names synonymous with this club that we've just heard from. Was it Don Prout you said that put the power on it, Tyabb, was it, Brad? Was it Don? Yep. Well, I spent 5 years in Adelaide coaching South Australia. We might need to get Don over there and get some power connected in Adelaide. Isn't that a strange place? I know there's one or two from Adelaide here tonight. Put your hand up if you're proud to live in Adelaide.
Darryle.
See how we only got half a hand up? It's a great place, Adelaide. Fantastic. More about that later. Let's move right along, and well, I just mentioned the name Prout, but another life member of the club. And I know he's looking forward to this very much. To speak about 1967, I'm alive now, to 1992, the team in that period,
92.
life member of the club, Andrew Prout.
Okay, thank you. First of all, celebrating something else, no gravy on the shirt, so I'm really happy about that tonight. Up here. The other thing is I'd like to thank Doug Dyall. He's done a great job with his, as the historian of the club, putting these notes together for us, so thanks for that, Doug. They're going to be very handy tonight. So I'm doing from 68, 69 to 91 and 92. So after the success of the under-14s in 67, 68, the club started to grow quickly and premierships came along too. The seconds won the flag in 69 and 70, their first ever premiership, while the under-16s took out the title in 70 and 71. With the interest of cricket growing, the pressure on the club to find suitable venues was increasing, with low-grade matches having to be played at Hastings' second oval. And for the people that played on that ground, there was crab holes all over the oval that I'm sure they'd remember, and the other ground was the old Hastings High School where they played as well. Jeff Stockton approached the council at the time about providing more playing services for Tyabb to provide for the increase in the participation of the local area. What came out of that discussion with the council was a football team and a new reserve, known as the Tyabb North Reserve, where we're playing today. By 1973, the thirds and the fourths were playing on the new ground at Tyabb North, which had just been levelled out. At this time, the club embarked on a new venture in appointing a coach for the first time in its history in Jeff Slocum. A former player appointed in 73-74, Tyabb had immediate success taking out the premiership in both first and seconds in district and were promoted to the top level. Jeff was a star with both bat and ball, and along with Don Clark, already considered one of the best Tyabb had produced, add then the recruitment of John Phillips, the top leg spinner from New South Wales, and improving juniors, Tyabb were a very strong side. Socially, the club was booming, and the small club rooms were now being filled by 5 teams, all congregating after games, often spilling out into the grandstand, and fantastic times were had. Card games were very popular, with Ron Brearley teaching many of the youngsters the art of cards. Who could ever forget the fishing trips, the New Year's Eve parties here, right in this hall, the double wicket matches, and of course, the old punched beer tickets. I remember them. Most of these ended up in the wash when you got home at all hours, and it was a great revenue raiser with only half tickets used. In 74-75, there were extensions were made to the small club rooms by Richard Francis and the crew, and this eased some of the pressure. The club was at the top of its game and making the provincial finals in its first year, and the next season took out the premiership with many of the youngsters having an impact, with 4 juniors, Steve Morone, Pete Morone, Mark Summers and Ron Gleeson playing their part. It was a fantastic effort by such a small town to now be the best on the peninsula. The next season, 76-77, the club made the big move from the central oval over here down to the new facilities at Tyabb North, which had just been opened by the club president, Mick Anderson. It was a new era, and even though the rooms were half the size they are today, it felt like the rooms would never be filled. After another 2 flags came in 77-78, with the under-16s showing the way before the Fifths took out the title on an epic game at the old ground over the road here. Then the 80s came along, and with the under-14s winning another premiership in 80-81, before the seniors won their second provincial title in 82-83 under Jeff Slocum in his 3rd stint at the club. This time, a new lot of juniors in Scott Morone, Jamie Flood and Darryl Stockton were all part of the side. I can still see down at Graydon's Road the supporters all around the ground in their utes with the lounge chairs, and I can still remember all the signage that the supporters put a lot of work in around the ground for that weekend, and it was just a fantastic atmosphere. The new club rooms are now utilised to the utmost and easily filled with celebrations, and Tyabb were top again of the peninsula. Unfortunately, we lost a great clubman and junior coordinator in the mid-80s by the name of Frank Mulrogue. Frank passed away from a heart attack at training on the top oval, and hence we have a trophy named after him for the most outstanding junior award, the Frank Mulrogue Trophy. In 85 and 86, the club peaked with 6 senior sides along with 3 junior teams, and a remarkable effort for the population of Tyabb. It would be our seconds who took out their 3rd premiership in 86-87 with a strong team that would have challenged any first side on the peninsula. But the club started to feel the heat with a downturn in the economy and other interests coming into play, that numbers dropped, and by the end of that decade the club struggled to field 4 senior sides, and the junior numbers were falling as well. The new decade saw the Ferns win the flag for the first time in 91-92, and the club celebrated their centenarial year, which brought many past players back to the club to reminisce past times and enjoy the good company. This era of the Tyabb Cricket Club was its most productive in its history. The change was coming with many of the youngsters who had come through the 60s and 70s. They were moving on and starting families, and a new modern era was about to hit. Administration had become a big part of growth in the club, and thanks to the following people: Jeff Stockton, Don Clark, Greg Hodgins, Ron Brearley, Chris Horton, Richard Francis, Ron Pickersgill, Mick Anderson, John Hughes, a few more here, Mark Summers, Ian Summers, Joe Diveston selling his beer raffle at the pub, Bert Diveston, Steve Morone, Pete Morone, Rob Summers, Ronnie Gleeson, Leigh Bramhall, Mary Gleeson, Norm Lyons, Smeds and Ken Davison, and many more. There is no doubt that the club during this time would not have been as successful if it wasn't for the enormous input of the women of the club. In those early days, to run a club was mainly men's business, with the women left to make the teas or dinners. But in the 70s through to the 90s, it was the women who were at the forefront, and the happenings of the cricket club, running social events, the bar, making meals, scoring, organising teas and serving on the committee. Ladies like Doc Davidson, her scorebooks were fantastic. Jean Slocum, Beryl Stockton, Sandra Slocum, Jan Slocum, Mary Gleeson, Mary Morone, Donna Morone, Gladys Brearley and Esther Smedley were instrumental in how the club ran, and indeed the harmony that existed at those times. The reserve changed its name from Tyabb North to Bungowan Reserve in the early 80s. Extensions to the club room with extra social rooms and toilets were done in 86, organised by Peter or Rosa Morone. Since Jeff Slocum took the first coaching role in 73, the club had 9 more coaches before the end of 92. In 1987, Ken Davison finished his career with Tyabb as both player and committee man. He'd been either president, treasurer, vice president or committee man ever since he joined Tyabb in 1959. Special mention must also go to a chap in the room, Jeff Stockton, who also finished as a committee man when the footy club started. Jeff was president for 8 years and served the club on committee from 1957 to 1977-78 and was instrumental in seeing the future of the club with juniors and essential infrastructure. Jeff still attends each week and is seen by the current members, rightly so, as a living legend. So, good work, Jeff. We were blessed at the time to have quality players and people involved throughout this era, with our Country Week representatives being Donnie Clark once, Jeff Slocum 3 times, Johnny Phillips once, Laurie Slocum 3 times, Steve Morone twice, Paddy O'Keefe twice, and Peter Morone once. That's basically me, but I'd personally like to thank the club for this opportunity to speak tonight, and thank all that have attended, as I know quite a few of you have travelled quite a distance to attend. So hopefully you all enjoy the rest of the night. When we finish here, it'd be great to see us all back at the club, and have a great night. Thanks very much.
And also no Goughy, which he keeps putting his head down when I come up. I was interested in Prouty's little spiel there that there was some problems with crab holes at the ground. Yeah. Hastings, was it? Because Goughy had some problems with crabs when he played at the club for a period. Oh no, that was at St Kilda, Goughy, wasn't it? Sorry, I keep forgetting. I did catch up with the greatest leg spinner to ever play the game yesterday, and you probably know he and I, our careers coincided. He went on to become the greatest leg spinner to ever play the game, and unfortunately I just became the fattest wicketkeeper to ever play for Victoria. But it was good to catch up, and he did share a few stories, Goughy, none that I could repeat tonight. He said, ask Goughy about '89 in England when we lived together. I said, I can't say that, there's ladies in the room. He said, well, ask Goughy, and I said, no mate, I can't say that, there might be young kids in the room. And then he came up with this bullshit story about, ask Goughy about how many Diamond Whites we drunk one night at some pub. Now, anyone who drank Diamond Whites had a little bit of a strange tendency about them, so I don't know if you remember those Diamond Whites. Can't remember. Apparently makes your hair fall out, that's what they told me. So, but I'll share a few stories with you later, Goughy. It's a mixed audience. So, and whilst we're on that, it is great to see tonight, and many cricket clubs are dominated in the past by males. Not now. Women's cricket has grown enormously, not only in our state of Victoria, but across the country, which is wonderful. I mean, I'm the father of 2 daughters and 1 young fella, and my 2 girls, one showing some interest as well. So the opportunity now for women in sport is fantastic, and I say that because I look around the congregation tonight, and it's great to see so many ladies in the room. We've got a life member in the room, a female, and plenty of the ladies in this room would have put up with plenty of days where their husband or partner has been at the cricket for hours upon end. I can see a few nodding their head. I can assure you my wife was delighted tonight when I was heading out to another cricket function. But that's part and parcel. Cricket is a long game, and a lot of people in this room. So to the men in the room, I think you should say thank you to your wives or your partners, and to the many ladies that have put an enormous amount of time into the Tyabb Cricket Club. Thank you very much. Now, you're going to clap for yourself up? Yeah, a little clap for yourself, good. The President also, Mr. Taranto, I refer to him, that'll be Sam, he said, can you share a couple of stories about your career? And I said, well, I don't know whether it's the right forum. It's the 125 years. He said, no, just break it up a little bit. So I said, okay, I'll tell you 2 quick little stories. And I told you of my upbringing. And I'm very proud of the fact that I grew up in Dufton and Montague. Very humble beginnings. Mum and Dad had 4 children in 7 years. That was our family. To the ladies in the room, 17 years later, I arrived. I clearly was a mistake. I think the old man must have had a few too many at the Prince Mark Hotel there in Dufton. And yeah, after 17 years I arrived. So in essence, I grew up lucky in the fact that I had parents who gave me the opportunity. And I used to travel from Wonthaggi, which as you would know is about an hour from here, but up to the MCG for Keith Stackpole practice, underage squads. And I was also lucky enough to have a bit of a run at St Kilda Football Club. And to my parents, who unfortunately I lost very early in my life because Dad was 50 when I arrived into the world. At 60 years of age we moved to Wonthaggi, and then sadly for me at 70 years of age, far too young, my father passed. And my mum survived my dad by 5 years, but unfortunately by 25, two people that were very, very important to me, and I'm sure everyone in the room would endorse my sentiments, that my mum and dad were special in the fact that they did everything for me to give me the opportunity to chase my dreams, and my dream was to one day be good enough to play cricket on the MCG. So whilst they've been gone a long, long time, and I have 3 young children now, probably my greatest regret is 2 people that invested so much time in my life and my career to give me that opportunity. Not everyone gets that opportunity, especially today in the world we live in. We're all busy, and quite often both parents are at work, and some of the young kids in the country don't get that opportunity. Mum and Dad would pick me up from school at lunchtime in Wonthaggi. We'd drive to Melbourne, we'd stop off at Cranbourne where my sister was living, and then we'd go into the MCG. I'd train for 2.5 hours, back in the car, stop at Cranbourne, Maggers for some health food on the way home, and then we'd get back to Wonthaggi about 11 o'clock at night, and I'd be up for school the next day. We'd do that 3 times a week, and I probably did it for 3 or 4 years. So I just wanted to mention, especially for the young boys in the room, or young girls in the room, that you only get one set of parents, and we all fight with them at times, but those of you that are lucky enough to still have your parents, make sure you let them know how much they mean to you. One little story before we do adjourn, and we'll have a short break. I'll tell you one little story that I was lucky enough to be involved with, and I might save one little yarn towards the end of the evening tonight. But I'm very lucky to play cricket all over the world. Again, coming from where I came from, to get that opportunity and to play for Victoria when I broke into the team. Tony Dodemaide was a little bit older than me, but a senior statesman. Simon O'Donnell, Paul Rifle, Damien Fleming, Shane Warne, Jamie Siddons. I could keep going through the list of wonderful cricketers that I was lucky enough to play with. And as a wicketkeeper, some fantastic bowlers. And all of you bowlers out there know that sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, the wicketkeeper always makes you guys look good. I heard Merv and Damien Fleming on the television before I left saying that the wicketkeepers only take what the bowlers provide, so that's always been a debate at the highest level anyway. But I loved what I did as a wicketkeeper, and I travelled the world and met some great people. And one story I'll share with you now before we break, and then we'll come back with the main part of the evening. Not many people know this, and I don't tell many people this. I joked about Adelaide before, but I actually made my first class debut for South Australia. I'm very much Victorian, Dufton and Wonthaggi, and I had a burning desire to play for Victoria, which I was lucky enough to do for 14 seasons. But I made my debut in South Australia after I'd spent 12 months at the Cricket Academy at the Institute of Sport. And the late, great David Hooks, who was an opposition player of Tony and myself, he went on to become coach of Victoria, and unfortunately the tragedy that surrounded his passing. I won't go there tonight, but when I was in Adelaide as an 18-year-old boy, I just finished high school in Wonthaggi, at the Cricket Academy, the very first year of the Cricket Institute that's now based in Brisbane. Well, it was in Adelaide. The 18 or 16 players, the best players from the country, were chosen. There was 2 wicket keepers, myself, and good thanks mate, yeah, not too bad. A young fella from Queensland, we were the 2 wicket keepers. I spent 12 months in Adelaide. And then David Hooks, who was captain of South Australia, said to me, if you stay in Adelaide, son, and I didn't know him at the time, you'll be a big chance to get the wicket-keeping gloves. And at the time in Victoria, there's plenty of historians in the room, the wicket-keeper of Victoria at the time was a very fine player by the name of Michael Dimatina. Unlucky not to play for Australia, probably even more unlucky that I took his spot. And that's what happens in wicket-keeping, right place, right time. Tim Payne, say no more. Sometimes you get a lucky break as a keeper, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you sit for years and years. Richie Robinson for Victoria was a fine wicketkeeper. He sat behind Rod Marsh. Darren Berry was probably the greatest wicketkeeper to have ever No, that wasn't on my notes. And I sat behind Ian Healy and Adam Gilchrist, probably the best wicketkeeper batsman in my time. Ian Healy was a superstar, and then Adam Gilchrist, the best batsman wicketkeeper. That's my lot, that's the timing. David Hook said to me, if you stay in Adelaide, you'll play for South Australia. Now that was a tough call, because really, I wanted to play for the Vicks, but long story short, I stayed when I played. The story I want to share with you is actually a golfing story. I'm not a very good golfer, but in pre-season, David Hooks phoned me on a Saturday morning and he said, young Darren, would you like to play golf? And I thought, oh yeah. He said, well, I've invited Darren Lehman, the coach of Australia now, same age as myself. We were great mates. We played together for South Australia and Victoria. He said, we've been invited to play golf with Sir Donald Bradman. Wow. For me, Sir Donald Bradman was 80 years of age this day. And I had an opportunity, one, to meet the man, and two, to play golf with him. I was pretty nervous because I wasn't very good at golf, but I thought one of those opportunities you've got to take. Off we go, long story short, Lehman and I drove down, we met Hooks in the car park, and then we met the great man, the greatest cricketer that this world's ever seen. Sir Donald Bradman averaged 99.96 in Test cricket, or 9, whatever. I mean, when you think of Steve Smith and how good he is, Ricky Ponting, Steve Worrell and Border, they're legends of the game. Tendulkar, Lara, you roll off any name you want, and they average between 50 and 60. That's elite. Bradman 99, uncovered wickets. Is he a good player? You would have watched him a fair bit. I was lucky enough to play golf with him this day. Now, out of courtesy, any golfers in the room would know, whoever wins the previous hole, he's first off the tee. But Bradman was always first off the tee out of respect. And the thing that was really interesting for Darren Lehman and myself, remember, we were probably 19 years of age at this stage. And David Hooks was a legendary figure in South Australia and captain of the state. And a very good golfer. Single figure, left-hander, hit it a mile. Bradman and Hooks, all day, it was like the old bull and the young bull. Who was going to get the bragging rights? And Hooksy was determined to beat Bradman. Lehman and I were just along for the ride. Long story short, we got to the 18th hole, and anyone in the room that doesn't understand golf, it was a par 4, meaning you need to hit the ball in the hole within 4 shots. It was a dog leg to the right, with a massive clump of pine trees at the Grange course in Adelaide, obscuring the green. However, if you're a big hitter, you could go over the trees and land on the green for 1. All right, remember that in this story. Sir Donald Bradman was first off the tee. He played a 5-iron, straight down the middle, and he set himself up beautifully for the approach shot second, as any smart golfer would. It was an easy 7-iron in. He turned to the 3 of us, 2 young kids, and David Hooks. And I can't do his voice, so I won't try, but in his quaint little voice, he looked at the 3 of us, and he said, you know, boys, he said, when I was your age playing Test cricket, he said, I used to go straight on that green for 1. Well, David Hook's eyes started to turn in his head. Lehman and I looked at each other and thought, we've got to take the old man down. Lehman was second on the tee, he's a left-hander, and I thought he was going to have a go because he pulled a driver out, but he played smart, which was un-Lehman-like, and he hit it 25 metres in front of Bradman. Nice shot. And I thought I'd love to have a go, but expectations and ability, and I thought, no. 5-iron for me, hook shot, shit house, left-hand side in the trees. I should have had a shot. See, when you're conservative, you get nowhere. I was spewing. David Hooks was next on the tee, and Lehman and I knew Hooksy's not going to go down wondering here. For the boys from Somerville, shut up because you know this story. Hooks gets on the tee and he tees the ball up nice and high. And Sir Donald Bradman had barely spoken throughout the day. Had his arms folded, he was just watching David. Hooksy has a couple of practice swings, and then he goes, and he smokes it out of the middle. And the ball's sailing over the top of these pine trees straight towards the green. Bradman had a look of fear on. This hole was going to decide the winner. Hooks or Bradman, they were neck and neck. Bradman was set beautifully. Hooks' ball's floating above these trees. Hooksy started to puff his chest out as only David Hooks could do. The tallest tree in the clump, you wouldn't believe it, a big fork in the road. His ball hits the top fork and it goes off at right angles out of bounds. Bradman putts off with a smile on his face. Lehman and I are pissing ourselves laughing. And Hooksy was like Dean Jones getting out for anything under 100. Toys out of the cot, swearing, cursing, kicking cans. We played on. Bradman chipped up nicely, 2 putts, 4. Ready for this? This is what shocked me. 80 years of age, 80. Off the stick, played to his age, 80. I'm 48, I still can't play to I can't play to 80 now. So he's had 80. He's got the scorecard, he's waiting for Hooks, who's out of bounds, in the trees, in the scrub, lost. Lehman putts in for 5, I got out of trouble, 6. I was very happy, 107, I was happy with that. Didn't make many hundreds as a cricketer, but shit, I made a lot playing golf. Hooksy comes out of the trees, mate, he looked like a Christmas tree. He had, shit coming out of his ears, and he played a really good chip shot up onto the green, and I thought this will be interesting. And he sits over his putt, and it was about a 9-footer, lefty. We watched it all the way in, and he dropped it. And Bradman looked, and he looked up at Hooks. And Hooksy was hard and ruthless, but he was honest. Bradman had the scorecard. He had to have a 4 to beat, out of bounds, +2. Hooksy looked up, he said 7. Well, Bradman wrote it down and just drove off in his golf cart. We got into the clubhouse afterwards. I'll never forget this as long as I live. Hooksy sits down, he was steaming. The old man had taken him down. Lehman and Berry, we were just happy to be there. Hooksy sits down, Sir Donald Bradman comes back with a tray of drinks. He puts them on the table. He said, David, he said, when I was your age playing test cricket, he said, those trees, they're only about this bloody high. How lucky was I to play golf with the great Sir Donald Bradman. I'll come back a little later and I'll just share one story with you. A few people said, have you got any stories about warning? I said, not many that I can tell tonight, but I've got one. It actually involves my wife as well, which is a strange combination when I was talking about that. And I will come back and share that with you before we close proceedings. We are up to our final stage, so what I will offer, and please don't run away, try and stay within the room, but we'll have a 10 to 15 minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll look at the team of the last 25 years. We've got some great presentations to make. Be back in about 15 minutes. Thanks, folks. It's been wonderful reflecting on 100 years at this wonderful club to take us, thank you, to take us up to 1992 when the club celebrated 100 years and the team of the century was announced. Tonight we are going to announce the team of the last 25 years, and I've got it in batting order. But before we move on to that, we would like to invite the current club captain coach to the stage just to have a brief few words about the club in its current situation and how we see things happening at the moment. Please welcome your captain coach, Joel Wylie.
Go for it, Dizzy.
Your speech go. Lost it. Off the cuff.
That's all right.
Obviously, I myself, I've been involved in cricket a lot of my life, and I've got my father to thank for that. I don't know whether to go thanking him or he's set me up for a lifetime of pain being a fast bowler. So I started my junior career out at Heatherhill, and I apologise to a lot of people in the room for that. It's probably my father you got to see about that. He bought a house in Frankston South, and we were very close to the Heatherhill Cricket Club. Mum didn't have a car at the time, so we had to walk down to Heatherhill. It was the closest club, so Tyabb might have been an option, I don't know. But when I first started playing cricket, I came across Tyabb in my juniors, and I was always very impressed with the Tyabb Cricket Club. They, I remember playing a couple of games, one out at the old Central Reserve and one at the current ground. And both times I came across a club that I thought was very well run and that had some very good junior cricketers. I spent a number of years after that in Premier Cricket. I came across a couple of Tyabb cricketers, and in my time in the pathways I coached a couple of Tyabb cricketers as well. And at the same time I was always very impressed with the level of commitment that those players brought. And I think the most important thing from those players was that they were always fantastic teammates and they were always fantastic club people. I think that's something that is quite constant with the Tyabb Cricket Club. That's not something that just happens overnight. I think that's something that's built as a culture. And from those things we've heard tonight from a lot of people, it's something that we've heard throughout the 125 years of Tyabb. Currently, the Tyabb Cricket Club, I think we're moving in a very good direction. We've got the first 11, we're currently sitting equal first. Fortunately, today's results had no bearing on that, so we're still sitting equal first. The seconds, the thirds and the fifths are all sitting well clear on top, and the fourths and the sixths are all sitting in the top 4. So at this stage, we're all sitting in finals cricket, but as I've spoken to the boys numerous times, finals aren't one in December and they aren't one in January, they're one in March, so we've got a lot of hard work left to do. Obviously when I joined the Tyabb Cricket Club, I was very impressed with a number of things. The history being one of those major things. I mean, I think we've got Dyall, who's a very important person to thank for that. I find it quite staggering that when I introduce a player to debut in the first 11 at Tyabb, I get to single-handedly give them their player number for the Tyabb Cricket Club. I mean, to know that when I played my first game at Tyabb, I was the 497th player to play for the Tyabb Cricket Club in the first 11, that's amazing. There's not many clubs that can do that, and to trace it back through 125 years is phenomenal. I think Doug deserves a round of applause for that. Obviously, it's a very important thing, and a lot of players take that number to be something very special to them. Most players, if not all players, get that number embroidered on their top. Jack Whitehouse even has that number to unlock his phone, so 0499. If you want to unlock Jack's phone, you can do that with his player number, and maybe hack his Facebook status later and say something nice about Doug. Obviously, the Tyabb Cricket Club is something that's welcomed me in the past 3 seasons for myself as a Tyabb player. I myself have realised only 2 years ago that I've known a Tyabb past player and past premiership player for 20 odd years and didn't even realise he was a Tyabb person, and that was the great Maury Lyons. But he never once mentioned that to me, or maybe he didn't, I wasn't listening. But it's obviously a place that I cherish. I'm happy enough tonight to finally get my wife down here to Tyabb as many people at Tyabb didn't think she existed, so I'm pretty happy with that. So obviously I'd like to thank Darren for coming down tonight and talking about some of the stories that he's got to offer. It's quite a big night for the Tyabb Cricket Club. 125 years doesn't just happen. It was really good today, even though the results and the weather weren't kind, to see a couple of past players around the club. It'd be fantastic to see a couple more, because I know Jeff might get lonely running his laps around the ground. I'm sure he'd like some company when he's walking around offering some of his catchphrases, like walk them out and put a bloody man there, Joel. So, yeah, put a man at cow corner, Joel. So obviously for the opportunities that I've received in the last couple of years, I'd like to thank the Tyabb Cricket Club. But, you know, I think we're on a journey right now, and the feeling around the club is fantastic. Speaking to Doug before Christmas and speaking to a couple of senior players after Christmas, the talk around the club is that it's a very different feeling right now. It's a feeling that we're moving in the right direction. We're moving towards something that's something very important, something's bubbling. And look, whether or not I'm the person that's going to lead us towards that, or whether or not the next young leader or the next coach of this club is sitting in this room right now, it doesn't matter, because I think the Tyabb Cricket Club is moving towards something that is fantastic, and we're moving back towards where we belong. I said it in my first year, as coach, there's far too many good players at the Tyabb Cricket Club for us to be playing sub-district cricket. We're far too good for that. And I think we need to go back to where we belong in provincial cricket, which is where all of our history is and where we belong. And I'd like to hand it back over, I think, to Darren. And thank you all for your time and your attendance tonight.
Thank you very much to Joel. Clearly the club is in very good hands and heading in the right direction. And clearly, Joel, you've done well to keep your wife away from the club, and there's a reason for that, because you're batting well above your average. So Haven't met her yet, but I will at some stage, I'm sure. Fantastic, Joel, and some great words there about the history of the club and where the club currently sits. Just out of interest, and this is not on the running sheet, but I know that Sam could say to me, and I'm going to introduce Sam in a moment, but just to recognise, just stand in the room if you have been a coach or a captain of this cricket club. Please stand if you are a past coach or captain of the Tyabb Cricket Club. Stay standing. We want to recognise them. I think we said before about 17 or 18 coaches in the room. So again, those that are sitting, perhaps a round of applause for the people that are just a show of hands of those gentlemen that stood. Put your hand high and proud if you were coach or captain when the side won a premiership at the club. Have we got any Well, there's a few hands, 2, 4, 6. Scotty's got his hand up. Cotters, I promise I won't say put your hand up if you took the club from provincial to... No, I won't go there. No, I won't go there. Talk about relegation and fires and things like that. Can't mention that. Well, let's move along. Time is getting away, as I knew it probably would. We've gone past 10 and we're... Thank you. We do need to be vacated by 11, along with the, well, not the most important part by any stretch, but the most recent part. And we're going to announce the team of the last 25 years. I'll do that in conjunction with Sam. But before we announce the names, Sam would like to have a word about the last 25 years. Your President, Sam Taranto.
This is about when I made my debut, so I should be pretty good at this one. And thanks to Doug again for all the notes. So things were tough in the early 1990s. The Tyabb had to rebuild again, and 5 senior teams have reached. The seconds took out the flag, 94-95, and the 14s and 3rds again in 95-96. It was under Ron Pickersgill in his 3rd stint as president that Tyabb had the club's greatest season in 99-2000. After being demoted the previous year to district under Scott Morone responded well, the premiership with stars like John Silva, Craig Edwards supporting cast of great local players. The 2nds, 3rds and 5ths also tasted success with 4 out of 5 for the year, the 4th then winning the following season, which completed the whole 5 in the 2 years. With the club back in provincial, all seemed well, and the club was about to fall in different times once again with a number of committee changes saw the club struggled to fill 4 teams again. This also culminated in the relegation district and then sub-district. I think that was Steph. The thirds 2004 and 4th 2005-6 took out premierships, and again in 07-08 with the club again going to 6 sides and 3 junior teams. Since the first have been able to climb back up to levels, but the club has turned its fortunes around considerably. Lower grade premierships in the 5th and 6th have come in recent years, whilst the 16s have taken 2 of premierships and the 14s 1, and I think the 14s were runners up the following year. So in 4 years that team played in 4 grand finals and won 3, which was an outstanding effort. Financially, the club where we're at today is never been better. With the formula going back to the 1960s, the focus of youngsters' success is coming through, and we're having that with a lot of young guys in our first and through the lower grades. The club has had 16 coaches in the last 25 years, with the coach Joel Wylie the first into his 3rd year. Good news for Joel that the club has honoured their commitments and no coach has been terminated. So you're lucky, Joel. The most tragic thing to happen to Tyabb Cricket Club in its history was on the evening of 12th of Feb 2014 with the death of Luke Batty. This had a massive impact not only on our club, but the community, both at local and at national level. Tragic as this was, it also did the best in our people, and to see the Australian cricket team wearing black armbands in South Africa showed what support cricket can provide in an hour of need. As a club, we have to support through tough times, trying to support Rosie and continue as a club. The support from a lot of people, especially Cricket Victoria, provided us with comfort to all. From this terrible event, I believe we have come out a closer club and we've come out the side a much stronger club. As running a club in the modern era is more akin to running a business, Tyabb has produced many good people around the club over the past 25 years. People like Ron Pickerskill, Andrew Prout, Dee Meyer, Rob Flood, Ron Gleeson, Dave Bewley, Shane Mason, Phil Dunkley, Lee Murray, Scott Pickerskill, Ian Birch, Rick McCarry, Webby, Brad Hodgins, Pat Matheson, Justin Hanna and Cal Morris. And as also in these times we've had women come through. Mary Gleeson, Sandy Meyer, Andrea Holland, Kim Chand, Donna Taranto, Sharon Russell, and lately we've also had Kylie. So,
Hey!
most people would have seen the facilities we have down there now, and we've probably got one of the best training nets that are going around anywhere. We've got lights and cameras there to watch batting and bowling from the two nets. And the ground now is probably one of the best on the MPCA. And we've had finals there for the last few years, so hopefully that continues, Rob. Country Week selections in this time was, we've only had Mel Coots in 2003, so hopefully
Wylie.
that will change in the near future. So with that, we'll get Chuck up and we'll do the team.
Well done, Prez, and I think the obvious events and the tragic circumstances that Sam just spoke about, I think it would be remiss of us if we didn't perhaps tonight, given we're celebrating 125 years, perhaps raise our glasses, and not just to Luke, but to all of our absent friends that are no longer with us tonight, people that have lost loved ones, and people that have meant a lot to this cricket club. So maybe charge our glasses and a tribute to those no longer with us, those past. Cheers. All right, let's move into, as I said, the part of the evening. Before I do, we would like to call forward, and I was just having a chat with him downstairs earlier, one of the legends of the club, the lifeblood of the club, and I believe also got the footy club up and running, and he probably doesn't even know this, but we'd like Jeff Stockton to come forward and help us in this presentation. If we could, please welcome him. So, ladies and gentlemen, how this part of the evening is going to work, I'm going to read out the name of the player that has been selected in the team of the last 25 years. I'd like that player to come forward and done a little bit of research, nothing that'll be too dramatic, but just, we're obviously conscious of getting 11 or 12 players up here. We don't want it to go forever, but we certainly want to pay respect to each player, and I've got one or two questions that we might be able to share and give each person an opportunity to have a brief word about the Tyabb Cricket Club and what it means to them. I also understand at the end of the 12 names coming forward, there is a very special presentation. I'll leave that to Sam towards the end of proceedings to display and show everyone, and I've been lucky enough to have a look, and it's certainly a magnificent piece that has been put together, and I hope I'm not breaking any rules by saying each member of the team will receive a copy of the print. So without any further ado, I sound a bit like Gil McLaughlin on Brownlow night now. I'm excited about this because this is a special occasion. We'll start in batting order with the opening batsman. A right-hand opening batsman. The stats will appear in a moment on the screen, and I'm sure none of you will be surprised, but the first member, Craig Edwards. There's a picture up there of Craig's younger brother when he was playing at Tyabb between 1992 and 2017-18 is the period of time we're honouring. Craig, come forward, you're going to have a word. Congratulations. Now, obviously a bit of history here at the club, but let's start with how did you end up at Tyabb, and what did you take away perhaps from your time at this cricket club?
I'll keep it short and sweet. Okay. But there was a lady who was a school teacher by the name of Di Summers at Somerville Primary School, and I was probably basically getting towards the end of time at my previous club, which was Uptown I played up at Beaumaris for a few years and was living down the peninsula and I needed a change, and Di Summers basically recruited me to the club, and she was the wife of Mark, I believe. That's right, isn't it? And she got me interested in applying for a job and told me that it was going to be advertised in the paper, so I kept an eye out for it. And what did I take away from my time at the club?
Some memories, surely there were some good ones along the way, the watering hole?
I came to the club and coached the first 2 years I was at the club, and honestly the overall arching impression I got of the place, and I stayed and played for 5 years after those 2 years I played as coach, was that Tyabb was, we were determined, well respected, the people within the club were fantastic. I can't just single out any individual specific sort of example, but it was just a great time in my life, from my late 20s to my early 30s, to be involved in a great environment, very welcoming, opposition were always welcomed, just a fantastic place to be, and very respected we were, and very respectful of the opposition, and just couldn't fault the place. It was fantastic.
Fantastic, Craig. All welcome except for Baxter Cricket Club. So, how do you feel about your son following in your footsteps and also playing at Tyabb Cricket Club?
Very proud of both my sons, but the eldest, obviously, he's always said that he remembers it from a very young age. He was only 3 and 4 years old when he was running around the boundary line watching me play and into the nets with his younger brother when he finally came along, and he was, his early years were, had Tyabb Cricket Club and imprinted on his brain, and he loved the place and loved coming and watching me play. Very proud that he decided when it was the right time to come and have a crack at Tyabb, and I'm sure that it's probably not a great secret, but whether it's in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 7, when he's ready to come back to his what he considers as his club, I'm sure Tyabb will be first on his list.
This last one, otherwise we're going to become like the Logies, and we're going to have to play some music in the background when it's time's up and you're awarded and the next one can come along. But any final thoughts on Tyabb Cricket Club, or anything you'd like to say?
I haven't probably been back often enough. I'd love to come back and spend more time reminiscing with a few of the old faces. It's always good to get back there. Like I said, it's a very welcoming place. The current committee, you know, Webby and
Webby.
and a few of the boys. Brad's a great man. He's very welcoming, and Sam. Always good to get back to Tyabb. I just think, just keep supporting the place. Good things are happening. Like, I agree with what Joel's saying. If we're persistent, we work hard enough, stuff's going to happen. So well done to Tyabb for where they're situated at the moment. Fantastic stuff.
I was about to wind it up, and then the President puts another question in my ear, so we could be here at 3:30 a.m. Prez wants to know who you owe for your last 100 at the club.
No, at Tyabb.
At Tyabb. You know what he's talking about? Who does he owe?
Not playing for Tyabb.
Who won the game?
Playing for the
Someone else.
ill-respected club from just east of Frankston on Cranbourne Road, that way, Lang Warren. Just like to thank Brad for putting me down. It was my first game against the Yabbies, and yeah, I made a reasonable score that day, but Brad did drop a sitter at a crucial time. Thanks for that, Brad.
Who won the game?
That doesn't matter. I basically showed young Paddy how to bat properly.
The music is playing because we've got another 11 We'll let Craig sit down as the opening batsman, and he can sit there and wait like many of us had to do when the opening batsman went out to bat. He can sit there while we go right through the order. The opening partner to come and join us on stage, a right-handed opening batsman, and again the statistics will come forward. Please congratulate Leigh Bramhall. Leigh, you take this microphone, that you got the rover and you can answer a couple of questions here. Growing up in Tyabb, playing for the club, what are your favourite memories over your journey and time at the Yabbies?
I guess I'll start with probably when I first moved to Tyabb. My dad bought the milk bar just down the road, just over that way a little bit, and we bought the house next door. So I'm in the front yard kicking the footy around one day, and Tyabb, people were playing across the road at Tyabb Central, and the ball kept landing in the front yard, and that's a fair hit. Kept landing in the front yard, and so I kept throwing it back a couple of times. Anyway, long story short, there was a legend of the club whose name's been mentioned earlier, a guy by the name of Jeff Slocum, and I spoke to him later, an hour or so after the game finished, and he said thank you for throwing the ball back, and he said why don't you come down and have a hit at time, so I did, and so the rest is history, so that was good.
Leigh, every club has one, and unfortunately the research that I've been doing the last week or so tells me that yourself and Shane Watson had a lot in common. Tell us the truth, were you ever out?
No. As you know, Chuck, there's a lot of bad decisions happen as a batsman, and I seem to be on the wrong end of them a lot. There was some where I was actually out and I was getting knocked out.
Really?
That was good, yeah. I wanted to make
told
runs.
me, I don't know who you were playing against, but you actually had your off-stump cartwheeling out and you stood at the crease and said, can't be out, I'd like to review that.
Was that the one where the stump broke in half?
I don't know which one it was, but that was one of the stories. Leave that aside.
Yeah, no worries.
Some final thoughts and maybe some people you'd like to mention or thank, but your thoughts on playing cricket at the club?
Well, I played for Tyabb quite a long time, since I was about 10 years of age, and I met some wonderful people, and it always holds a special place in my heart. I have moved on and played for a couple of other clubs, but Tyabb has always had that special place in my heart. And look, I look around today, and I haven't been back for quite a long time, and that's, I guess, a small regret of mine, but life goes on fast, and kids and all that sort of stuff. But the same faces and the same people that put in so much work to this club to make it as successful as what it's been and what it is. Blokes like Prouty, Brad Hodgins, the same faces that I see. The Pickers, Ron, Scotty, Hoses, the Slocums, I mean, Laurie and Jeff, I mean, they're legends of this place, and I idolised them when I was a kid. I hope that that the younger guys that are coming through now look at some of these older guys and want to be like them, want to achieve something, want to be successful like them. That's my take.
Leigh, congratulations. The music is playing. Go and join your open partner. And the team of the last 25 years, very important position to be batting at number 3. I'm reliably informed, a right-hand batsman. Occasional leg spinner who fancied himself as a leg spin bowler. It'll probably be no surprise to anybody. I would suggest one of the best players to ever play for the club, Scott Morone.
Congratulations, Scotty.
Look here, that's a love in. Come forward, Scotty, you're centre stage, and congratulations. The notes that I have, and speaking to a few people, and you are one of the most decorated players to have played at the club. Provincial premiership at the age of 16, is that correct? And there's a few other things to be announced here, obviously. Named in the team of the century, captain of the last first 11 premiership side, and now captain of the team. Ladies and gentlemen, I've revealed that a little early, being named captain of the team as I'm reading my notes. Congratulating, mate, there is an unbelievable history of the club.
Thank you.
there a question in that, Darren?
You're a legend, just tell them how good you are. 16
No,
years
no,
of age,
no,
it started at 16, you
any-
played a premiership at 16.
Yeah, and with my best mate down there, Darryl Stockton, we were both 16-year-olds and running around in the first thinking this is ridiculous, given that we were probably batting at somewhere between 9 and 11, and we weren't bowling. What were we in there for? Maybe the fielding. It's, yeah, that was, I guess, the start of it, and from a cricket point of view, I'd been playing a fair bit of tennis across the road for most of those years, and then came back to cricket at the age of 15 and thought I'd better follow the brothers, and Peter and Stephen, and have a game of cricket. And you know, some of the legends of the club are here tonight, and they helped us get us that chance. And yeah, I look upon it as very memorable at the age of 16 to be doing that, and then I guess at almost double that age to be a part of the 99-2000 flag at a time where we had just come off the relegation. It was a bit of a dark period, and I suppose we asked of each of us to try and do something special, given it was the turn of the millennium. We all thought the computers and things like that were going to break down and all that sort of stuff. We'd been told about the Y2K bug, so the world was going to end, so let's do something special. And sure enough, that year, 4 out of the 5 sides won the flag, and the next year was another flag, and we went on and won the Jack Peacock Cup. So special times.
Special times, and there's a few young men at the back of the room that are starting out their journey, probably 14 to 16 years of age. Maybe a word of advice. We all get old. I can't believe my career's passed. Tony Dodmade would say the same. Your words as a legend of the club to some of the younger boys.
Well, yeah, I guess the one good thing is that I'm throwing a little bit of time back into cricket and being on the board of the NPCA these days, and I've had a fair bit to do with the under-21 program that's going well, and so we're just so delighted from an NPCA point of view to have Nick Taranto as a co-captain of the under-21s of the NPCA, and in a couple of weeks' time, Nick will lead the boys. The NPCA are in the VMCU comp, and only its second year, and we've made it through to a semi-final. And so my suggestion to most of the young guys at the club would be to grab onto the coattails of the likes of Nick Taranto and others at the club, and I've obviously known Joel for some time as well. Grab onto all of those guys and follow in their footsteps, and you'll enjoy a great cricket career.
Maybe just to finish, 1 or 2 of your favourite players, or perhaps teammates that stick in your memory for the wrong or the right reasons during your time at Tyabb.
That's a good question. Probably, again, one of my best mates and the guy that I always found hard to face in the nets, Andrew Prout. He was a challenging one.
And mostly bowled off 18, did he? Yeah. No front line.
And no, such a great mate, and such a great. I'm so proud of you, mate. The fact that you've just kept thick with the club and seen it through, even though I've had to move so far away to Rosebud. When the guys said to me, where are you going there? It's so far away from everything. But that's where I headed to sort of bring up our family. But yeah, so proud of what you're doing. You're always there, part of the club and stuff like that, and you mean a lot to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain of the team for the last 25 years. Morone. I know there's a few that are busting in so do what you have to do, but I might pause when we go through the top. No, I'm not going to break, I'm going to soldier on, so just do what you have to do, and we will understand. At number 4 in our team of the last 25 years, a right-hand batsman. I'll give it away probably when I say a right arm off spinner. And I've been kindly tweaked with the notes. Janitha Silva. Step forward, Johnny, this is your time. Congratulations, and just tell us perhaps, early in your career, how come Tyabb Cricket Club? How did that come about?
Yes, I played for a couple of competitions early in my career, closer to the city. One in used to be VJCA. Those days, Victorian Junior Cricket Association with East Malvern. And then I moved to Ringwood District. I played for Scoresby in one of those stages, and I felt that I need a club that actually more to experience the country atmosphere. And I was more sort of, running around like a headless chook, while I was playing those clubs. And lucky enough, Westy is actually he's knew a friend of mine who's Frank, and suddenly they had a bit of a chat and said this fellow is looking to come into the peninsula and have a hit. And so one night we spoke to Ron Pickersgill and Westy, and from the first meeting I felt that it's very relaxed. And from there onwards, until I stopped my cricket, I played for Tyabb.
And you've had a wonderful career. I look on there, a premiership player, and on the notes that I've got, you're a big game player. You stood up in the grand final, 100 against Somerville as well, I think, you were a semi-finalist. What do you think it was about the big games that brought the best out in you, Johnny? Don't be modest tonight.
No, just look, I love the challenge, and of course, when I felt that when the best players are on the opposite end, that's where sometimes you can get the best out of you as well. So definitely had challenges on both games, and especially in the grand final, I felt that this club deserved it. So I think it's more than my 100, it's probably the club had that going as well. So I was happy for the club.
I was going to ask you what the club means to you, but I think you just told everybody here that relaxed environment, you really enjoyed your cricket, and the premiership was something that was really special.
Definitely.
Congratulations to Johnny. Number 4. Moving along to number 5, and finally we're going to change from the right side to the left side. Might have given it away, but we need a left-hander in the middle order. And my notes tell me that he bowled right arm, but they were sort of these wobbly little nude nuts. I'm sure I've given it away now, but at number 5, batting on the wrong side of the bat, congratulations, Darryle Gillies. Grab the microphone, Darryle, that's yours. Well done, congratulations to you. And we'll get to what Tyabb needs in a moment, but one little memory I'm sure you will remember, and those that were there this day, facing up to one of Australia's fastest ever bowlers. I think he was at Red Hill at the time, was he? Where was he playing at the time? Red Hill? I'm talking about Rodney Malcolm Hogg, who was pushing off the fence, and you had to face up and take the brunt of him, but you were also doing that, I'm of the belief, to protect your brother-in-law, is that correct? Who was at the other end?
I thought he was buying spinners, but...
Is that off?
Yeah, I didn't think he was that quick really, but Prouty said to me, let's go out. It was the second innings actually of the game. We'd already won the game. And Hoggy obviously wasn't very impressed with his captain coach of Red Hill at that stage. So Andrew and I said we'll go out and have a bit of fun. Of course, Andrew says, you take the first ball, Darryl. Which I did, and I thought this is going to be pretty easy. Hoggy's going to be pretty casual. I went to hook the first ball, and I got to about there, and it went over third man down to flying there, third man down to the boundary, and I thought, I hope the guy stops at the 3 so that I can get up the bloody other end. But, yeah, that was Hoggy. He was pretty lively still in those days.
Yeah, he was one of the fastest to have got on his like at Red Hill. But Darryl, your decorated cricketing career back home in WA. How did you find the standard when you played cricket down here at Tyabb, and your general thoughts on cricket on the peninsula, and then finally Tyabb Cricket Club to you?
Well, I came over in '89 from WA, and I've been playing turf. And I'd have to say, most of the grounds over there in WA are in pretty good nick, and I came down to Tyabb for my first training run, only because I was married to Prouty's sister. And I thought, this is going to be alright down at Tyabb, it should be fun. And my first day down there was raining, drizzly. I looked at the ground, it was like this. I thought, geez, this is going to be fun down there. And the practice wickets weren't that great. But what happened was, it turned out to be one of the best decisions I made in my life going to Tyabb. Made a lot of great friends. We used to have some terrific social activities. We also liked to play cricket, but I'll tell you what, some of those nights at Tyabb was I remember.
Congratulations to Dyall on his selection. We're almost halfway there, moving to number 6. We'll just get those chairs out, good boy Johnny, because we're going to have 12 players coming forward. At number 6, suggests maybe an all-rounder, but I'm told more as a right-hand batsman at the club. He led the club for a number of seasons as captain coach. There's many of them in the room. This man doesn't have too much hair these days. He played a little bit of cricket up in town. I've mentioned him a couple of times already. Gough. Step forward, Goughy, and you can have your right of reply. I've been on you all night, champion. Great to see you. Haven't seen you for a long time, but and this is about you. So you did captain coach the club, and would have played in a lot of great victories. Was there one or two that stood out to you that you always think of? Gee, I remember that game. It was an absolute beauty.
There's a couple. The big one I suppose was at Mornington. I think there's a washout in the round, and it got down late in the day, a 2-day game. We were 9 down, needing I think another 110 with Mark Huggard at the crease and Ash Davis. A lot of washouts around the area, and there was people from everywhere that came to watch that last hour or two. And somehow we got home with Huggy making, I think it was 195. An extraordinary performance, and just showed the fight of the Tyabb Cricket Club in that era. A couple of good players, never out of the game, and got up and won. It was an incredible performance.
Some great memories, I'm sure, Goughy. And I've mentioned that you did play up at St Kilda, and I mentioned that you did share a room with Shane Warne back in the day in 1989. We probably haven't got time for those stories tonight, Goughy.
Not in this forum either, mate.
Not unless you and I go back to the club and talk about that. But again, I'm intrigued by someone who played at a higher level. The standard when you played down here, the competitive spirit of the association. I mean, I've been down here for 2 years and I've been around watching it, and I reckon it's fantastic. But in your time, memories of that, and was there one or two opponents that stood out that really got up your nose?
Yep. Yeah, look, the standard of cricket, obviously very, very good. We were in provincial when I came to lead the club. Yeah, it's terrific standard cricket, very tough, very competitive. I suppose player-wise, Craig Bradley obviously is a gun player in the competition at that stage. I don't know, I can't think of too many more. Struggling a little bit tonight, Chuck. Been on medication, back surgery, so my mind's not quite on it.
So it's okay.
Very humbled and to be up here in this selecting this team. But I can't really think of anything.
Okay, that's fine, and I'll let you sit down because I didn't know that. But maybe a final word or two, Goughy, because it was a period of your life that you clearly enjoyed, and there might be one or two people out there that you want to thank, or your memories of the
I will. I was 40 years of age when I basically retired from cricket up in town. I got a phone call from Prouty out of the blue at 40 to come to captain coach. It was unbelievable. I sort of struck one Tats Lotto in joining a great club like Tyabb has been. To me, it epitomises strength through adversity, this cricket club. I know there's been some examples over not only recent years, but going right back when the club's dealt poor card, a shit card, or they're up against it. So their ability to fight through those challenging times and come through the other side better. And I think it's a sign of great character, obviously, and a sign of a great cricket club. So to be part of it for, albeit from 40 to 45 or 46, albeit a short time, it's one of those memories I'll cherish, and certainly very proud to be a part of the cricket club.
Ladies and gentlemen, a former captain coach, congratulations, Tom. 7 and 8, so two genuine all-rounders. Quite ironically, both of them are right-hand batsmen and both of them right-arm medium pace bowlers. I'll start with the man at number 7. 7 times he's been the club champion. No surprise, Luke Russ. Step forward. Come forward so we can all see, especially for this first question, Luke, because everyone in the crowd wants to know the answer. I read out 7 times a club champion, which is an unbelievable performance. But is there any truth in the rumour that your mum was scoring and she was doing the votes at the time?
Probably completely true.
Definitely scoring. All good. Mum definitely scoring. Votes probably only every second week.
That's not what I've got here. Mum gave you the votes at 7 times. We're not going to take the mickey out of that. Mate, you would have obviously won the club championship 7 times. Some great memories of the club. I'm sure looking out there's some people that you played alongside of, and some memories that stick for you over the journey at the Abbeys.
In terms of individual games or anything like that, Chuck, probably not much. The main memory is just the passion and the love of the club from the people that have been there for a while. Like Stockos, having been there every week. Dougie Dyall, Prouty was there. Johnny Fagan most weeks. Sorry if I missed anyone, but just the passion for the guys that are there really every week.
You still look like you're in reasonable nick, unlike myself, so I've been told to ask this, any chance that you might just think about making a comeback?
No, mate.
No chance?
No chance.
Finals, we're hearing that, we're a chance in the higher grade, so you're done?
All done. All done. We'll be able to work for 3 days.
How old are you?
36.
36? Come on, you've still got plenty of good years. Brad Hogg's still playing for the Melbourne Renegades and he's 96. Final words, anyone you want to thank, apart from your mum, obviously, for the votes, but is there anyone else you'd like to mention at the club?
Just everyone at the club, and also, obviously, most people, their wives are putting up with all the time that the players spend away from their homes and their families.
Good work. Congratulations to one of the great 7-time club champions. Again, Joel, as you mentioned yours before, just let her know she's got another 15 years of pain to go. I'm sure she'll be at many of these functions in years to come. We've got that back now, operating. Second all-round, we're down to number 8. So we're starting to get into that category of an all-rounder, handy with the bat, and the numbers will come up behind me. But please congratulate, and again, I'm sure this one won't be a surprise. But at number 8, Mark Huggard. Step forward, Mark. I'm going to change my line of questioning after I've seen the size of you. I'm not going to take the piss out of you, that's for sure. So I've just got wonderful player, legend. It's been spoken about already, but now look up there, only 100, but when you went there, you went pretty big, and it was in a game, and I'd like you to talk us through it against Mornington, I think, and in a little spot of bother, it's 7 for 78. I think at one stage, 197 unbeaten.
Yeah, obviously, it was a tough day, that one. We were, I went into bat when we were 4 for 40, playing Mornington, who were on top, and we were down in the bottom. We had no one gave us any chance to win. But just one of those days where everything seems to come out of the middle. We had a little bit of luck. Battled with some great guys on the day. Jack Rayside came out to bat with me at 10, till we put on 80 or 90, which Jack got 3. It was a good 3. Got down, we were chasing 307. We're always pushing shit uphill, but in the end we got there, and then Ash Davis came out, batted 11, he got 20 odd. We got past them. They had all the named players, and it was a fantastic day for us. We went back to the club that night and partied pretty hard. Good to see Hedda, who's the coach of Mornington, just crying out in the middle there. It's just one of those days where everything goes right, and it was just a great win. Good bunch of blokes, and yeah, never forget that day.
It's always good to see Hedda cry, don't worry. Red hair and freckles are such fantastic stuff. Apart from that wonderful innings, which is the highest score ever by a first 11 batsman at the club, maybe one or two other memories, Mark, over your journey, or one or two players that stood out to you and over your time?
Probably the best memory was we had our first ball when I was at Tyabb, and I had half a dozen guys around the club one night, and their main focus was them wanting to see me change Cooper's nappy on the table. So that was interesting. They didn't think I could do it. So that was one thing. The other thing, I think the best player I ever saw down here was Janitha Silva when he was batting. Just yeah, one of the greatest players I've seen. That's all.
Well done, Mark. Congratulations. And again, the highest score of 197, as we saw there, up against Mornington, was a day that a lot of people will never forget. Now, this one's close to my heart because it's time to announce the wicket keeper. A little bit disappointed he's batting so low. Number 9, we'll have to work on that. We'll have to move him up the order a little bit. A right-hand batsman. A kid who grew up across the road. Please congratulate and welcome the wicket-keeper of the team for the last 25 years, Andrew West. Took the old man's option up the stairs. Disappointed as a keeper.
Good on you, Westy. Thanks, Dad.
Congratulations. Is that on? Step forward, Westy. We'll get a photo together. Wicket keepers. How does it feel to be the second best wicket keeper in the room at the moment?
You know what? I was actually thinking you're probably the third best wicket keeper in the room at the moment.
Fair enough.
Steve Morone, number 1. I'm number 2. You're number 3. That's how it works.
Steve had me covered as well.
Absolutely. He's
told me that before, actually.
Yeah, so that's correct.
I didn't write those notes, but I liked them. Growing up across the road, local boy. I won't mention that you've moved out a little further down the road.
Yeah. I've had a few moves over the years.
Well, I've been told that as well. A few of my mates did say that you've had more clubs than Jack Nicholas. But anyway, we're talking tonight about Tyabb Cricket Club.
Yes.
And as the wicket keeper, I mean, you mentioned Steve, but keeping wickets, do you regret that you gave up leg spin?
No, definitely not. I was terrible at leg spin.
All keepers think they can bowl leg spin.
In the nets, Chuck, I was absolutely fantastic. I was a great leg spinner.
Couldn't land him in a game?
No way. No. So I think wicket keeping was my calling at the end of the day. I was a little bit chubby, probably a bit like yourself.
Yeah, very much so.
But
always smart asses wicket keepers, aren't they?
I got behind.
So common thing.
Always starts, you get behind it, you stop them, and then you go from there. So yeah, it was okay.
I had a score of 92, couldn't quite go all the way.
No, I was pretty terrible with it, man, to be honest.
92, is that?
Average of 18, that's terrible. Oh, jeez. I think I was better than that.
Okay, what about your main part though? Wicket keeping. I was in your boat as well, I couldn't hold it, but I mean there's some great names there already, and a couple more fast bowlers to bring forward. Was there one or two bowlers in your time when you were behind the stumps that stood out to you that you thought, gee, this bloke's tough to keep to, whether it be spin or pace?
I was really lucky. Obviously, the guys in front of me, Janitha Silva was probably one of the better, is easily the best bat I've ever seen in the competition, but everyone forgets the fact that he bowled off spin and he bowled it really well, and he was a class player. Andrew Prout was really good to keep to, especially up at the stumps. So it was probably later in Andrew's career, probably early in mine, I went up to the stumps to win. He didn't like it too much, but I did it anyway, and he probably cracked the chest.
Slow, medium pacers always hate it.
I
remember coming up
should have
once.
seen his face there.
I come up once to Tony Donomator, who thought he was fast. He played for Australia. He stood at the top of his mark, refused to bowl until I went back. So is it the same here or not?
Yeah, Prout didn't like it when I got up there. But he didn't mind it when I got legs started stumping. It was up and about. I'll tell you about that. Yeah.
Mate, local forward, but any thoughts or anyone that you want to mention and what this means, obviously, to be named in the team of the last 25 years?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a massive honour. This club means so much to me. As Chuck said, I lived over the road as a junior and you know, pretty much walked my bag and walked all my stuff over the road and played cricket. And you know, you play junior cricket and Ronnie Pickskill was the main man at the time, and you'd be hanging around waiting to hope you'd get a game in the seniors, and you know, so you get to play that junior game and that senior game over that period. And it was such a thrill to when he came up here and say, "Yeah, you want to play?" You're like, "Yeah, no worries." All my junior coaches that came in that time, Dyall, Ronnie Dyall, Dean Meyer, fantastic, Morone, who you know is massive. He looks at me now and sees me up here and he can't believe it because I was the worst junior player he's probably ever seen. I was terrible. What a rough job. How bad was it? There's one guy, I reckon at Langwarren, I think it was the club, who's got a hat trick. And it was all me. He's like, stay out there. No, stay out there again. No, stay out there. 3 times got me out and it was bad, but I just love the club and I love the environment and I really love the people involved in the club, and it's really important for me. One other guy I'd like to mention is my dad. He's here tonight. He's you know, I've obviously played a lot of games of cricket over a lot of clubs and stuff, but I can count on my hand how many times he's missed a game of cricket. He's always been there. He's been a massive supporter of mine, and I really appreciate that. So thanks very much. Just finishing, I'd like to thank the club for giving me this opportunity. Obviously, I've played a lot of cricket. This is my bearings was a time, and it still is. I love this club. I look at the stats all the time and look at the people involved, and I always wonder how Tyabb's going. And sure enough, I'm not here at the moment. I'm playing cricket, but I really do love this place, and you know, it's a big part of my life. And I really like to thank everyone involved. And thanks very much for giving me the opportunity. I love it.
Great stuff, Steve. Batsmen, we have some all-rounders and we have the most important position catered for the wicket keeper. Time to bring forth the Rhodes Scholars now, the fast bowlers. We've got a couple of those in the room, and I don't know, well I know one of them actually, but I don't know the other one. But I'll start with the right arm opening bowler. Considered himself a more than handy lower order batsman. I won't say any more than that now, but I'm pleased to announce at number 10 in the team of the last 25 years, Jason Ferns. Very well done. Now just have a look look back at that photo firstly. A couple of feathers there. I'm starting to go back at that stage, mate.
Geez, that seems like a lifetime ago. I've got so much to thank this club for, really. My hair's gone, but well, what can I say? I came to the club and I came in, I followed Goughy down, I played a lot of cricket with Goughy uptown. And he had an opportunity to come down to Tyabb and he said, well, why don't you come in and help me out down there? So I said, yeah, no worries, with Tyabb, I played a lot of cricket up in town, didn't know where Tyabb was. So shot in the car, I was living in Berry, come down, it was a really, really foggy night. I was heading down the road and it was like thick fog everywhere. You know where the hell I was going. Checking the Melways at that stage, boys. I don't know if you get the back know what that is, but was checking the Melways and they told me just head down there. You'll see a telephone box, and then just past there. There's a driveway. Just head down there. Oh man, now I'm thinking I'm in the wrong place. Where am I? And I get down there. I just vaguely see cars parked in the car park. Pull up, open the car, and the first thing I hear is. I'm thinking, where the hell am I? Get out, and I'll tell you now, it is the best decision I've ever made in my life to come down to that club. I've met some unbelievable people in this world. Most of them are from this career club. I've had my first man crush down at this club. I got down at the club and trained the first couple of nights, and I had to head back towards Berwick, and Hodgins said to me, like, you know, would you drop me back home? And it's the first time I've been actually asked inside for a coffee by a bloke. I've had some big nights at this club, and that probably goes into one of them. The other one is when I met my wife. Wow, what a night that was. I thought we might actually had some vision tonight at our first meeting, but maybe not. Maybe that's still in the club vault somewhere.
On my notes, Ferns, it says you won't have to worry about asking many questions. He'll entertain the crowd. You're doing a great job. You were known as the #1 prankster, which sounds as though you were stitched up early when you arrived, but tell us about the story with Jared White and Ian Birch, if you remember that one. And if that wasn't the best one, give us another one.
No, that is, I think, one of the best ones ever. Look, we were struggling at the time. I used to like getting the Goughy would sort of lead the team. I used to try and rev the boys up before the games to try and get us up. And we were having a terrible run. We just couldn't make a run. So on the Thursday night before this particular Saturday, we were talking outside, having a bit of a smoke outside, and I sort of went around the group and sort of asked the boys, can you remember the time, what was your preparation like before you made that big score? What was it that you did different? Because we're obviously not doing it right, so maybe it comes down to preparation. So I went through the group, and there was one particular bloke, I probably won't mention names now, but I said to him, can you remember, like, what was your high score? He goes, I made 100 this day. And I said, well, what did you do the night before? And he said, oh, can I say that? He said, oh, to be honest with you, Ferns, I had a few drinks, I had a split. And I said, really? Well, I said, I don't know if you should be doing that, but that's okay. So anyway, Saturday came around, I was thinking about this all week. So the Saturday morning I got up and I thought I'm going to do something here. So I did a little prep of a little mini grip bag and headed to the herb shelf and pulled out a few herbs and stuck them in this bag and chucked them in my pocket and sort of brought the boys together and said, right, it's the big day, boys. We talked about preparation on Thursday night. Whitey. I remember what you said to me. I said, it rang true for me. I said, listen, I've got something for you. I said, here you go. Go up to the rooms. I don't want to see you come out until you finish that. We're going hungry today. Which, the boys had a big chuckle about. It was all a bit of a laugh, and so, we all went on to our thing. Anyway, so we're heading off after our warm-up, and Ian Birch, a scorer for the first 11, he was standing beside the race as we walked out. So as I walked out, I said, Birchie, and I handed him the bag, and I said, now, I want you to hold on to this, and I said, don't let anyone touch it, right? And he was like, straight into the pocket. Oh, got back into the rooms, having a laugh at the boys, they all know what's going on. So we go and start playing the game. Anyway, as the game's progressing and we're batting and I'm sitting there watching the boys doing their thing, all of a sudden, out of no particular reason at all, but a police car just decides it's going to come and have a look at the game. Pulls over the game, and I'll just give it a Bertie! Bertie! And he's like, and he's run out, and threw it on the roof of the room.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker for the night. We'll keep him here just before we announce your opening bowling partner, but on a serious note, that's a lightheartedness. Tyabb Cricket Club, I look on there, you took 155 wickets, mate, averaged 18, so obviously it was a period that you were very successful, but a couple of other faces, you mentioned a couple there, or any final memories made at the time of the club?
I can't believe that. Very, very dear to my heart, this club. As I said, massive part of my life. And I've made some unbelievable friends during my time, and I just love the place and can't wait to be back again. So, thanks.
Congratulations, George. Number 11, opening bowler to join Fernsy to lead the new ball attack. We've got some all-rounders amongst us. We've got Johnny bowling some off-spin. We've got Goughy rolling out his putrid leg spin. Just looking through our list here of what we've got. But the final, well, not the final position actually, but at number 11, because any team needs 12. And we're going to pick 12 tonight and announce 12. But at number 11, the other opening bowler, Nathan Hudgson. Step forward, boss. Congratulations. Grab that microphone. Now, Nath, I think in this team, anyway, looking around, you're the only current day player. There's a couple of them there that surely couldn't still be playing. But as a current day player, you look a bit like Mitch Johnson in that photo, actually. If you look throwing in the wrong side, there's a bit of Mitch Johnson about that. And that's with the cap on. But tell us about how you see the club at the moment. And we've heard from the current captain, coach, but you've been around the place. An honour to be named in this team for sure, but how's the club tracking and some of the younger kids around the place?
No, it's definitely an honour to be, I guess, named in this team. You look around, there's some great players. So yeah, definitely humbling. I came here about 7 years ago, and I guess the club was in a little bit of a spot of bother again. We had been relegated, and but there was a lot of determination there with all the young kids, and it was worth sticking around. And you could see that there was just going to grow and come into a good club, and I think 7 years down the track, we're there.
And you've been an assistant coach at the club, obviously had a bit of a role to play, and you're going to open the attack. And I'm not sure who we're playing against, but you and Ferns, you're going to open the attack. Who do you think should bowl the first over?
Probably Fernsy. He'll probably get it on a pitch.
So you're happy to come Bob Seeger into the wind, against the wind?
Yeah, I guess I could do that.
You could do that? Yeah. All right, and Joel spoke before about the club and the ones being right up there in contention. In your 7 years, you would have seen some things change, and I'll probably mention in the opening question, but I suppose I'm talking to those young boys at the back of the room that are here tonight. It's great to see them here, the history of the club, the future of the club when you hang them up. Some young kids, and we've heard that we've already got young Taranto going well, but the state of the youngsters at the club, that what you see?
I think it's fantastic. Like just this year, I've played a few games in the twos, and just to see some of the young talent coming through, that's great. Got a couple of young, quick, fast bowlers that are going to be good and might actually scare a few people in a couple of years' time.
Good.
And a few young bats that are just seeming to come into their own. So I think the club's in really good stead. Yeah, the juniors are great, and I think the next few years is going to be pretty exciting.
Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to Nathan Hudgson. So any good cricket team is made up of 12, and the player that we've selected at number 12 could quite easily fit into the team in a variety of positions because he is a genuine all-rounder. And I'm delighted to announce, selected in the team of the last 25 years, and this man has no idea that he's been selected, Andrew Prout. We kept this one a secret, which you can tell by the response of General. I said, does he know? And they said, no, he doesn't know. But I think it's a bit rich, to be honest, Andrew, that you're on the selection panel and you're pretending you don't know, when really, all those nights when you put this team together, quietly in the background, you said, I need to be in it. It's a bit rich, really. Don't you think?
Well, it wasn't really in my script. I didn't know, but the guys that did select the side, I did put my name forward as opening bat and first change bowler, but I got laughed off. But yeah, it's a bit of a surprise actually, Jack.
And I can tell you're a surprise, but I think you're the only life member in the team, life member of the club. So I suppose, well, firstly, and you can tell by the raw, everyone's ecstatic that you've made this team, and you've made it on your cricketing ability, but you've done a power of work also around the club. So just your thoughts, and you spoke before, but one, on this team that you've assembled, maybe you can speak on behalf of all of them, the team of the last 25 years and the Tyabb Cricket Club.
Yeah, okay, thanks for the pre-warning.
On behalf of my team.
On behalf of all the guys, look back here, guys. I've been at the club about 1977 when I started. Laurie Slocum was my first coach in the kids, and it's been an unbelievable ride over the years. The people we meet, I just look out here tonight, all these people, just love yous all, as Jeff Fennick would say. And I look back here, and there's some guys here, I just adore them. The place has been a massive part of my life, rolling up as a kid, this big, watching my father play through the years, and with a lot of others that are even in the room tonight. It's just been a fantastic ride, and I wouldn't change anything for the world.
I'm sure you wouldn't, Prouty, and we're going to unveil in a moment. We've got a print, a wonderful print that's going to be presented to each and every player, but one that's going to hang, I think, proudly in the dressing room wall. But final thoughts, and we're getting towards wrapping up proceedings. The President's going to have his unwrapping Christmas presents behind me. But on behalf, again, of everyone here tonight, it's been a wonderful night, and to the 12 players that have been selected, I know it's a huge honour for you. Any closing thoughts on this period of 25 years and some of the things that have stood out in your mind?
I suppose socially, we'll get off the field before, we'll start there. Socially, find it very hard to find a better place to party than the Tyabb Cricket Club. The people that we've spent many hours with, we've had some sensational nights that we remember, and many nights that we don't remember. And on the field, there was some great highlights. Lucky enough to play premierships with most of these guys sitting here, a few out there. And to the young guys coming through, if you get a chance tonight to have a word to any of the old blokes, or guys not playing now, they'd welcome you to have a chat, because great knowledge, great people, and we're all in it for the Tyabb Cricket Club, so let's get behind us this year for the drive to finals, and let's bring a few flags home this year for us all, so it's a good part.
Doug's going to come forward now, and I think as he reveals this print, which none of the boys would have seen as yet, I think we can have a collective round of applause for the team of the last 25 years. Hold it up for him, Doug, get you to see. Fantastic print that's been put together, and again, each member of the team will receive a printed copy of the Tyabb Cricket Club team of the last 25 years. We are at the end of the formalities. We have, as expected, gone overtime, so we're in trouble. It is 11:15 p.m, but just before we close, I'm just waiting for Sam, this is called padding, as he presents each of the team members. The President would like to have the final words. I said I was going to come back to tell stories. Tonight's not about me. It's been my privilege to be here as your MC tonight on such a special occasion. To the people that have travelled a long distance to be here tonight, I'm sure everybody thanks you. And for those that are interested, there'll be a couple of light refreshments back at the club. If not, thank you for having me tonight. Have a wonderful new year and good luck to the Tyabb Cricket Club.
Firstly, I'd like to say thanks to Chuck. He's done a great job tonight, and that's what it makes a good night if you've got a good compere up here. So, thank you very much. Big thanks to Tony and Rowan for coming down tonight. Obviously, we're only a little club, and to have you guys come down and support us, which you have done for the last few years, it's been phenomenal. So, thank you. The same goes for Neil. He was on our committee when we organised the game after Luke Batty, so thank you to Neil too. Russell and his staff for doing the catering. I think you'll all admit the food was wonderful, so thanks to Russell. Big thanks to our bar staff. We've got Emily, Kayla, Matt and Suzanne, so thank you. I've got to thank you here to Kelsey because we weren't sure that you did exist, so now it's proof. So Joel shouldn't be fined anymore. I think the whole committee's done a tireless job to get this event up, so thank you to everyone, but especially to Glenn Slocum, wherever he is up the back there somewhere. You just give him jobs and they get done, you don't have to worry about them, so thank you to Glenn. I think a big thanks to put an event like this on with the history goes to Doug. So, I don't think many clubs will be able to sort of produce the history that we've seen tonight. So, thank you very much to Doug. So, with that, that's the end of our evening. As it's been said, the club will be open till the official close of the club at 12 o'clock, and then after that we're not sure what happens, but yeah. And we would like to get photos tonight of all the life members and all the presidents and the coaches. So anyone who fits into the category, come up to the front please, and we'll just get some photos for our own history estate. So thank you very much for everyone attending, and thanks for a good night.
The gentlemen can stay on stage, and the 12 players can come forward and stand. We can have a team photo opportunity.